Tales from the top flight.
We are joined once again by the legend that is Mr. Chris Darwin. Chris, it's our new time slot, 7:30 till 9:30. We've had fireworks on the lime green sofa. What have you got for us tonight, sir, from the Costas?
Hello, mate. Well, where would you like to start?
Well, can we please start with United Arsenal? What were your thoughts on that one?
Well, it's been a tough little run for Wayne Rooney, hasn't it? I mean, he finally completed a 180-degree turn at the weekend, not on the pitch, I hasten to add, but going from his apology to then calling out all the journalists for giving him a particularly hard time. To be fair, and as we know, I don't often stick up for Wayne, he might have a point. Hendo, Lallana, they're allowed to go out and do a little bit something different on their night off, but Rooney, being a 30-something guy, having a few beers at a wedding, gets into a lot of trouble. So yeah, I think Kloppo actually got it right on that one.
Yeah.
Ryan Giggs actually said that it made him glad he wasn't a player nowadays. I mean, yeah, the newspapers never caught up with you, Ryan, did they? But let's talk a little bit about the game. Hey?
Yeah.
I mean, Jose's come out and said that United are the most unlucky team in the league at the moment. I have to accept, I actually did think it was a penalty, but let me introduce Mr. Mourinho to something called karma. If you spend most of your life calling everyone out in public, maybe a few things are going to come back and bite you on that nicely tailored behind.
I've asked the question a couple of times tonight already, Chris. I'd like to get your opinion on it. Do you think that penalty would have been given if Alex Ferguson was still in charge?
Probably, because most penalties were given when Ferguson was in charge. And I don't think that necessarily has a lot to do with it being Ferguson, other than the fact that United was successful under Ferguson, and successful teams do tend to get more penalties. Apart from Tottenham, they seem to get penalties by the bucket load anyway.
Yeah, Harry Kane's just scored another one tonight in Monaco.
Exactly.
Chris, but Arsenal, it seemed like they didn't turn up. So do you think it's fair for United to feel that was 2 points dropped for them?
Yeah, probably just like it was 2 points dropped against Stoke and 2 points dropped against Burnley at Old Trafford. I mean, when these mediocre teams come up to Manchester nowadays, it's no longer guaranteed 3 points for Arsenal. I mean, let's be honest. If Mourinho can't beat Arsenal when he's beaten him every single time for God knows how long, then he is losing his magic. He's losing his magic.
So you think a sign that something is up for Mourinho at United?
I think the results, the performances and everything probably suggest that. But no, on a serious point, United did absolutely outplay Arsenal for most of the game. But luckily for Arsenal, he dug himself out of the hole that he'd already dug by bringing on Giroud. And they'll be delighted to go away with a point from that awful performance. OK, let's move on to Spurs versus West Ham, Chris. Well, yeah, so social media is beautifully set up for games like Spurs-West Ham, isn't it? Because with about sort of 15 minutes to go, all the West Ham fans were giving it plenty of chat about how they were sort of well away and mocking the demise of Tottenham's unbeaten record. And then round about the 92nd minute, I think they were probably a little bit more interested in Strictly Come Dancing, because they went very, very quiet by the end of the game. Bilic called the defeat very difficult to take. You would have thought with the amount of practice he's getting this season, he'd have probably found them quite easy to take by now. But I do have a cunning plan to stop Tottenham. Okay. Basically, all you've got to do is watch out for anyone called Harry and stop giving them penalties. Do that and you're going to beat them. He scored 2 very late goals, of course. One from a penalty, one was more of a tap-in. He really is their golden boy again at the moment, Chris, Harry Kane. He is, and I do hope they actually do pay him the contract that they probably need to keep him, because you don't get many English-born strikers leading the line for their hometown club anymore. And I don't care what the Arsenal guy says about Harry being an Arsenal boy when he was a kid. At 10 years old, you go and play for any club that gives you the chance to maybe play professional football one day. Arsenal was stupid enough to let him go. OK, with that, let's move on to Borough versus Chelsea. Chelsea have gone top, and another clean sheet for them, Chris. Yes, that's about 37 clean sheets in a row now for Chelsea since Conte invented the 3-4-3 formation. well done, Antonio. David Luiz has refused to get too carried away with Chelsea's recent good form. Just reminding everyone, but lads, I play in this back three. I'm bound to make a mistake soon. Anything could happen. So yeah, let's not get too carried away with that. It was what you would probably call the performance of potential champions, going up to Middlesbrough on a tough day and coming away with a uninspiring 1-0 win. The sort of win that you'd probably want to be seeing from teams at the top sort of end of the table.
Chris, do you think at the moment, we've got Nigel and Lisa, our Manchester City fans, on the sofa, do you think at the moment you would say the title is between Chelsea and Manchester City?
No, I think you've got to add Liverpool to that list as well.
Yeah.
I really do. There is something about Klopp that he's not going to let that go without giving it absolutely everything. But Chelsea and City also very, very much, obviously, in that race.
And finally, Chris, because we've got Nigel and Lisa on the sofa, could we briefly have your thoughts on the Palace City match?
Of course. I mean, Yaya Toure, get that guy a cake. I mean, in one single game, he's made more of an impact than another big-name midfielder that might be playing some football in Manchester. So, I mean, not as much luck for Paul Vincent Kompany, though. I mean, you've had all those injury problems, and then your goalkeeper comes and sticks his knee in the back of your head. I mean, Joe Hart wouldn't have done that, I'm sure. So, what else we got on the City game? Well, looking at it from the Palace point of view, because I know we've got a few sort of lovely Palace sort of followers. Yes. Those England rumours really do seem to have died down for Pardew now, don't they?
Absolutely.
If you have to go in the media and say every single week, conceding from set pieces, it's just not us. Maybe it is you, Alan. Maybe it is you. You've conceded the most amount of goals from set pieces in the league this season. Palace have the worst form in the country now, which is a nice little antidote to the fact that they've got the most smug manager in the entire country. So,
Chris, we had Cape Town on the Skype earlier, a Crystal Palace fan, and he suggested that Pardew has lost the dressing room, in particular over an issue with Townsend. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, to be fair to Townsend, the guy has got one trick and one trick only. It is to start on the right-hand side of the pitch, drop the shoulder, cut in on the left, either blaze it into the top corner or into Rose Ed. If you stick him out on the left, he can't even do that. So I can see Andros's point on that one.
Okay, Chris, you are an absolute legend, sir, and I just want to encourage everybody to subscribe to Tales from the Top Flight. It's genius. Chris, pleasure to speak to you, my friend. As always, speak to you again soon.
See you next week. Thanks.
Thank you, brother. Let's hear it for Chris Darwin on the Costas. Love you, baby. Love you, Chris.